everyone. Up first, we have our consent agenda. We have a number of prior minutes, both from the January 8th regular meeting as well as the January 15th special board meeting, and then a number of policy reads. Any discussion from the board on any of that? Questions? All right, I'll make a motion then to accept the consent agenda. We'll do that by roll. Lisa?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Arlene?
Aye.
And Mary is an aye. Thank you. Any need, Lynn, to reprioritize the flow of the meeting?
No, I think we're good.
No need for any executive
No.
sessions today? Okay, so that brings us to our recognition of visitors, public comment. We have no one here in person for public comment. Jared, are you interested in speaking to the board?
Not tonight, thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, well then we will move on. Is Morgan joining us virtually or not tonight?
Nope.
No, tonight.
Okay, perfect. So Lynn, we'll move on to your.
Oh,
That
I'm
was-
all right.
That was very quick.
Hold on.
Okay.
I like the quickness.
I didn't even have my designee opened yet. Okay.
Can I quickly introduce Audrey? Is that okay? Being from Bakersfield?
Yeah, sure.
I'll do that. I just wanted to quickly just say, we do have a visitor from Bakersfield, Audrey, who I know her as Shay, or as Picna, but she changed her name in the year since I first met her to Shay. But she's interested in running to be a part of our board for this upcoming session, and so I'm super excited about the opportunities that might be there, and I encourage anybody to also be, do their civic duty and to do that. And so I invited her here today just to kind of see what it looks like, sounds like, feels like, and so thank you very much for joining.
Thank you. We probably should mention that, well, I think, Zach, is there anything that you wanted to say, or are you okay with me saying something?
No, go ahead. Say what you have to say. I don't really have much to say other than I decided that I am not going to run for the seat again for the board.
I just wanted to thank you, Zach, because I know you stepped in and you filled a seat that was vacant, and we appreciate your service to the board, and we appreciate it, and we'll miss you on the board, and appreciate that you'll be with us and until we get through this next election.
Thank you, Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, Zach.
Okay,
No.
back to me. Okay, personnel. So under our personnel report, we have some hiring. So in Bakersfield, we have hired Allie Bliss as a grade 1 teacher effective January 13th. We made a move with Kat Villatoro, who is moving from grade 1, shifting her into an SU grant funded interventionist position. And then Jessica Kerfis is moving from that grant funded interventionist position into grade 2 teacher role. So those two are informational, but Allie Bliss is, and I guess technically Jess Kerfis would be action from the board, because those would be into your local budget. One was a hire to replace someone who resigned mid-year, and then the other two were a move from grant to local and vice versa. So the motion would be about Allie and Jessica.
Okay, I'll make that hiring motion about Allie Bliss and Jessica Kerfis. We'll do that by roll. Michelle?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Arlene?
Do I need to recuse myself on this
Oh,
one?
you're good on this.
This one's good.
This one I'm good?
Yeah.
Aye.
Thank you. And Mary is an aye.
And then next up, we have resignations. So Berkshire Elementary School, unfortunately Sadie Durain, our first grade teacher, who happens to, I don't want to steal Gavin's thunder, I'm sure he's going to share this later, but Gavin will share a celebration involving Sadie later, I'm assuming? Okay. So she'll be resigning at the end of this school year. So I'd ask the board to make a motion about Sadie.
I'll make the motion about Sadie Doran. By roll, Michelle,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Arlene,
Aye.
and Mary is an aye.
We have open positions. Bakersfield is looking for a preschool paraeducator. Berkshire is looking still for a half-time help teacher and a paraeducator. Sheldon is looking for a middle school math interventionist. So if there are people that are looking between now and the end of the year, please fill out an application and consider working in our schools. We have a request from Catherine Villatoro. So that shift that we just talked about, so Kat is requesting because she's leaving a Bakersfield role and moving into a grant-funded interventionist role. She would like the board to grant her a leave of absence to be able to do that for the 26-27 school year and leave the window open to return to a teaching position in Bakersfield for the following year. So she would finish the year kind of as a assignment because she's filling a need with someone who's left. And I typically tell the board, I really think you shouldn't do more than a 1-year leave of absence for a position like this, but Kat's feels unique because she wants to try this, but also wants to make sure if this isn't a match, she could return to a teaching role. So the 1 year part to me would not be between now and June, it would be for next year. So she's asking the board to consider that leave. And you've done this before in other situations. I know Kevin and I have spoken, and Kevin would be working to figure out how to make that interventionist role a Bakersfield position over time, looking at staffing levels currently, so making some adjustments to other staffing levels in order to create space for an interventionist role to come onto the local budget in future years. So it might be a moot point when you make that happen. But
Can you just clarify, so the intervention position begins, or it has started and ends in June of 2027?
so the position doesn't end, but what it's confusing, the way Kat wrote this, she did her best, she's never had to
Okay,
do this part, but she's right now worked with Kevin to fill a need because we had primary teacher leave mid-year. So we've been able to hire and transfer and make it work with the team that exists in Shelton. So I feel like, Bakersfield. So I feel like right now she's covered some of the transition needs in Bakersfield. So what she's asking is to remain in that role for the next school year, but then have the ability to decide if she wants to return to Bakersfield under the local budget. That might happen naturally. Really what it is that, and I'll make sure that Catherine understands this, the request can't be that you're going to return back to your teaching position. The request is that you want to have the ability after this leave of absence to return to a position that you're licensed for. So Catherine has a 1-00, which is an elementary educator license. So she could be guaranteed a position somewhere in that K-6 range, which she's licensed for.
understood, okay.
Am I allowed to ask a question? Would that be in that school or in NMV?
So she's requesting it in Bakersfield. And
that would
our
be the-
intention would be Bakersfield, but we have a right to transfer within the collective bargaining agreement, so no teacher is ever guaranteed that it would always be within their school. It's within district, and that's true of anybody working in any of our schools
Will
now.
you let her know that?
Absolutely, yeah. And she's not losing anything on that because it's the same as what already exists.
Right.
Yeah.
And Lynn alluded to this, I feel like I just want to try to clarify things, because it was fine, but my hope is to not have any grant teaching positions. I find that particularly in this climate as we're currently in, I don't particularly feel I have a lot of faith in grant funds at this point. And so I'm trying to look within to see where I can capture funding so that it will become part of our local budget versus relying on outside funding for a reading interventionist.
Certainly. Okay.
Will you address the dates on this?
That makes sense. Any discussion on this request from the board? And my sense from both Kevin and from you, Lynn, is that that you are in support of this because, I mean, it's kind of a mutually beneficial arrangement at the moment.
Absolutely, I think the
Okay.
momentum that we have within the school, I wouldn't want to mess that up.
Yeah, certainly, of course, I hear that for sure. I do think Arlene should recuse
Yes.
herself for this one. So I'll make that motion to accept that request for the leave of absence from Catherine Villatoro. By roll, Lisa,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
and Mary is an aye.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So we have nothing under students except pictures from students from each of our schools. So principals want to take a first try at, let's go left to right. This is like our game we can play each month to see if you can identify your photo.
So that first picture on the far left is obviously Sheldon, because we can see the bear in the upper part of the picture. It is us trying out the new Lou interactive system with some PE activity going on. It looks like second or third graders. It's hard to tell right now. They've really been loving the Lou. We have also done some other more, less about PE and more about doing some word target with it as well. So they're still getting their shooting skills with basketball, but also focusing on CBC and sight word kind of things. It's been really fun. The kids love it. And so for their second PE, that's usually set up, ready to go for them every day. So that's that. They had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that second picture, no, that's not.
Don't know. Well, I know where mine is. It says Montgomery all over
That's
it.
That's me, that, I've never,
That Montgomery photo is our 7th and 8th grade boys basketball team.
oh, is that?
Who came in second.
Surveys, okay.
They came in second place at the Troy tournament a couple weekends ago. 6 games between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, back and forth over the mountain.
Upper right is Bakersfield, and there's some 5th, 6th, and 8th grader in there enjoying the STEM activities that are provided this year, and looking forward to next year having more student voice and choice, where those kids are pretty pumped about it, and let's keep that momentum next year by giving them some more.
Okay, in my defense, the second picture is mine. That is not Berkshire. I was like, I've never seen that room. That is not, that's Starbase. So they, our 5th and 6th graders took a field trip to Starbase this past month. And so, in my defense, all of the kids are turned away from the camera. My goodness, I can't recognize my building or my kids. No, that is Starbase. That actually might be Miss Du Bois on the step ladder. She was our 5th grade teacher, and so the kids got to do some really cool hands-on physics stuff. And it was a wonderful opportunity, and a huge recognition goes out to Tricia McFadden, our ELA interventionist, who helped spearhead this. She's actually been working on this since last year, and so she was able to book a spot for our kids, and they came back incredibly enthusiastic and excited to have the experience that they did.
And what is that opportunity? I've never heard of it before. Star.
So basically, it is a military base that's located, I think, around Essex is what I
Oh,
want to
okay.
say.
It's Vermont National Guard.
Yeah.
Oh, cool,
And
cool.
so they were able to just go in, and there's a number of things like with aeronautics and just with physics that they were able to do
Neat.
with hands-on stuff. And so it was, like I said, it's a free program. It's basically there's a pretty long wait list just
Oh,
because of how
gotcha.
popular it is.
Yeah.
And our kids, like I said, it's a really unique experience. I hope next time we go, I can attend as a chaperone.
Love it. Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Thanks.
Okay, so for those of you who have been watching the news or reading your emails from me, there is a lot that's happening, not only on the federal level around education, but also at the state level. So you all know by now that the governor has proposed his education transformation plan. The plan would take us from the existing district structure that we have in Vermont with 50+ supervisory unions and districts down to 5 districts across the state. We would, under his plan, be assigned into the largest district, which would be the Champlain Valley district, which would include all of Franklin, Grand Isle, Chittenden, and about 2/3 of Addison County. That's anticipated around 35,000 students. And then the other 4 regions of the state would be fewer students than that. Right now, his plan is built around the construct of something that already exists, and that's the Vermont Superintendents Association regional groups. So what we use that for now is really around, I'm a part of the Champlain Valley Superintendents Association, so those are the colleagues that I work with monthly. We have some, professional learning that we do together each month. So that's really what the construct is about. So there's a lot involved in the governor's education transformation proposal. What I included this month, I'm going to try to keep bringing you updates from month to month as we navigate this legislative session. The most recent information that we received last week was a clearer sense of the foundation formula that his plan proposes. And essentially, what his plan would do is, right now we have a system where school districts get to decide what they're going to spend on educating their students. And their limit is only what their taxpayers will approve. So some districts have taxpayers that will approve a relatively high per pupil spending amount, and they can create a certain level of opportunities for their students. Other districts don't have the same capacity to get budgets approved for that level, so we have currently a system where per pupil spending varies widely from the lowest spending districts to the highest spending in the state. There's about a $10,000-ish discrepancy per weighted pupil. So what this does is, in the existing system, the communities decide how much is spent, and then the way it works, the state has to write a check to each of those communities for what was approved in their budget out of the ed fund, and then they have to raise that much money through taxes to be able to pay that. So what this shift is going to is, our funding system would no longer be solely designed, our funding decisions would be no longer solely designed by local boards and districts. Our funding would be based on a foundation formula. So you would not be taking any kind of proposal to your voters to decide upon your level of spending. You would get a base funding amount from the state. The proposal is $13,200 per pupil. You would multiply that base funding amount by the long-term weighted average ADM, average daily membership. And what that really means is that that's an acknowledgement that there are some students who cost more to educate than others. So, for example, there are weights related to students who live in poverty, and there are weights related to students who speak another language. And so there are other weighting factors that are identified in here that would be taken into consideration. different than the weights that currently exist under Act 173. There are also weights associated with CTE students in this as well, so we'll talk about that a little later. So you would get to calculate what's your base amount plus your weights, and that would give you your foundation funding. In addition to that, there would be categorical aid that would be available to communities, and we receive some categorical aid currently, and that would be for things like transportation would be one example of categorical aid that systems would receive. I'm not exactly clear which things would be funded through the categorical aids, but I think those things will be clear as we move forward. In addition to the funding formula, there are also ratios that this report that I linked to all of you is about 25 pages. So there are other factors that we have been leaning into in FNESU. We've seen some of these shifts coming for a while, and that's looking at ratio of staff to students, teachers to students, administrators to students, and so on. And there are specific recommendations around class sizes also in this report, and much of this, we've been talking about this all fall. The PICUS report that we talked about earlier this year when we started unpacking what do our minimum class sizes look like compared to the class size recommendations in our education quality standards compared to what the recommendations are in the PICUS report. Much of what is in the governor's proposal is leaning on the recommendations that came from that PICUS and Odin report. So just to give you some examples, class sizes in this plan include staff size ratios of 15:1 in kindergarten through 3rd grade and 25:1 in grades 4 through 12. There are other variations for electives that they're slightly different than regular class sizes. Looking at an instructional coaching model of 1 per every 200 students to work with teachers, 1 interventionist for every school to work directly with students. In Tier 2, for us, that would be levels 3 and 4A through push in or pull out. 1 librarian per school, 1 counselor per 450 students in the elementary school, and per 250 students in the high school. 1 nurse per 750 students, and 1 principal and assistant principal, 1 principal per school and an assistant principal in high school, plus secretarial staff. Supervisory aides to cover duties and protect teacher planning time. So that's just one example of how they're looking at class sizes and ratios. So this is very different than what it currently looks like. So you can imagine that there is some anxiety associated with what is this going to look like and what would a plan look like to transition our current system to a system like the one that Governor Scott is proposing. I think one important part is that he, in his proposal, he's talking about the several aspects. So he's talking about trying to look at how we fund our schools so that we can find some cost efficiencies that way. He's also talking about how we govern our schools. So thinking about how many board members do we have in the state right now? How many central offices do we have in the state right now? And he is trying to create a model that would be more efficient. So that would take us from about 52 or 55 superintendents and central offices down to 5 in his model. There's still a lot of detail in terms of how you get from here to there and how do you still accomplish the level of work that's being accomplished now in a system and structure that looks like that. So we're looking for more information and more detail on that. Our principals are already working on this notion of staffing with precision. So we've been working on building our capacity and our understanding around this for the year. As we're looking at any turnovers in our staff through attrition, we're making hard decisions about, do we refill those positions or do we not? And we're trying to use both an evidence base in terms of what's an effective practice and does that position support an evidence-based practice, or if we fill that position, what does that mean to our class sizes and or our ratios? So we're in a place where we're already making some difficult decisions that way. And as part of the plan, which we'll talk about next, you'll see that there's a timeline involved in Governor Scott's transformation proposal. So in his proposal, I'm just gonna look at my screen because I can't really read that, Courtney. What he's talking about, I can't completely tell you what the next year piece means. So I've asked about this and I'm still not clear. So using next year as an opportunity to stabilize the system and support early transition planning. So what I think that means is there might be some conditions where there may be some systems that say we can see that we need to transition maybe the number of schools that are being operated, that there might be some systems that choose to do that on their own, is what I think that means. I'm not 100% clear on that. What the governor has also talked about is understanding that taxpayers sent a really clear message last year about affordability of education, our education system in Vermont. So what he has talked about, what he talked about in his budget address was using one-time money to hold property taxes level for Vermonters this year. So the budgets we're about to vote on next month, what he's saying is he thinks that he can buy down that tax rate with the one-time money so it won't be felt quite so impactfully on our voters. The AOE over the course of the next school year would work on rulemaking to establish what does an economy of scale look like at the school level, and then thinking about sustainability and building budget guidelines for the following year. After next school year, we would go into the 26-27 school year. I think that there would be a transition to that new foundation formula for that year, 26-27, at least a partial transition. They've talked a little bit about it not being maybe fully foundation formula based, but some sort of transition in that year. In November of that year, they're looking at that as when they would elect new school district board members. The way I understand this, if you take the Champlain Valley region by way of example, we talked about the counties that would represent, the 35,000 students that would represent. That geographic district, I think, would be broken into wards or something like that, and people would likely run to represent that ward, and they would be voted on to be on that board. Now, these are different than all of you board members currently do this more out of the goodness of your heart than anything that benefits you financially. Probably actually costs you money to be on a school board in Vermont right now because of the number of miles you drive to board meetings, and your time is certainly not paid with the small stipend that you currently have. I'm still glad that you're not good out. I didn't want to scare you away. But these new board members would be quasi-professional positions. So these would be paid positions. I don't have any sense of what that means other than they've said that these are paid positions. So they would get right to work building the first year budget for that new school district. And I think one of their first tasks would be hiring a superintendent. I'm still unclear if that's where the hiring of the superintendent is, or if that somehow comes earlier, which I also don't fully understand. So we're waiting on details of that. By the end of 2020, that 26-27 school year, in his plan, you'd be closing out all the existing school district business. So for us, by way of example, we'd be closing out anything related to FNASU district, tax information, books, all of that. On July 1 of 2027, the new districts would be operational. So the districts would, in that year, it would, I think what we're hearing is that this is when they would receive the full weighted amount per pupil from the AOE. They received that categorical grant. We already received special ed census block grant. I don't know, can't quite conceptualize yet how that works in a district. I know it works, I just don't know how to describe how it would work, and the federal funds from the AOE, which I think would be impacted, and I'm not quite sure how they would be impacted. I know for us, right now under our current structure, because we serve so many students who live in poverty, we benefit from receiving federal funds to support our schools. When you count all of the kids together across the Champlain Valley region, I think the poverty levels would look very different. So I don't know what kind of impact that'll have on both census and federal funds. Districts in the new structure would have community engagement processes for building their next school budget that would involve local community input. They've talked about having school advisory councils at the community level and having that be something where the advisory council works with building principals to identify priorities for those schools to recommend to the larger district. In the 28-29 school year is when you would start to see school consolidations to achieve quality and financial indicators set forth in this plan. Districts would use AOE rules to evaluate existing school operation patterns. So that could be the number of schools, it could be how you identify which students go to which schools, or it also could be grade levels that certain schools operate and whether or not they're the right patterns or if they're going to reconfigure any of those. Throughout this process, in this plan, the intention that is being communicated is that the AOE would provide support and data to inform the district evaluations. So I'm following this really closely. I do think there is there's a legislative process that has to be followed. So there's a long way to the end of the session in terms of this is what the plan says right now. It has to make its way into a bill, and then it needs to make its way through both the House and the Senate and then on to the governor's desk for approval. I do know there's another bill that was introduced, I think, late last week, and in that bill, the district consolidation goes, I think, essentially by tech center region. So we would end up with, instead of the 50 plus or the 5, you would likely end up with around 14 districts throughout the state. It's possible that we will see other plans emerge and there might be competing bills moving their way through the legislative process. So I'm going to stop there and just see if anyone has any questions or comments on that.
Well, seismic
Yes.
is, kind of sums it up. I mean, this is going to be a really interesting process to watch it unfold. And Lynn, did you speak at all to, or have they talked about yet? You said possibly restructuring schools, but they're not really talking about closure per se.
No, they are talking about closure. What I will tell you, I wrote school consolidation to achieve quality. That is, we have schools in Vermont that range from a handful of students on upwards. So I did some, for a testimony I provided last year to House Education Committee, I had taken a look at how many students are in Vermont schools, and there were around 75 schools that had under 150 students, and I think there were around 67, 68 schools that had under 100, and then there were several under 50, 20 something, and a handful that had under 25 students. So there's a wide variability in the number of schools, and not only is it not efficient to operate schools at that scale, it's also really difficult to be able to offer the diversity of educational experiences that you want for students. in those tiny micro schools. So I definitely believe, and you can see it when you dig into the plan, and I would say go into that first link and you can see some of the recommendations that they're going to make around school sizes. So I think they're going to create expectations around school sizes potentially, and it might be it might be school sizes, but it also might be configurations that might vary based on regions and numbers of students. So instead of having K-5 schools, you might see, I'm making this part up, K-3 schools, or a 3 to 5, or a regional middle school. Like, there are so many considerations that they'll have to think about and make. I will just acknowledge that I know this is very, very scary for people watching this, and thinking about, you know, what school currently looks like now. And I know that change is really challenging, and I'm not saying that I'm personally supporting or not supporting this plan. That's not what my job is right now. My job is to tell you what this plan is, and to help us navigate what comes ahead. I will tell you from my work across the state and here in FNESU, it's very clear to me that we do not, our Vermont Constitution requires that we provide substantially equitable educational opportunities for all Vermont students. And that's not currently happening under our current system. And our students are disadvantaged by that, and have been for decades. So I think that something will happen during this legislative session. I do hope that we look at this as the complex problem that it is, and don't try to find one thing that we think is going to solve the problem, because I think the solution does have to be multifaceted. I think we do need to look at our operational structures, the number of schools that we have, and how we fund our system. And I think the reality is we're going to land, now I'm going to tell you a prediction. I think we'll land somewhere between 5 and what we currently have. I don't know if that will be by county or this new proposal by Tech Center District. All I can tell you is what's out there really right now. And we have a lot of people talking about this all over the state. So I think change is coming. I definitely hear from the legislators. Spent a lot of time watching testimony, watching different committee meetings, that people very much have listened to the taxpayers who said time and again last spring, we're sending a message to Montpelier. And I think that the point I'd like to make is I think the message was received, and we are going to see change that's going to feel large. And I think if we, it will be important for us to keep our focus on the opportunities for our students at the same time that we're looking at the efficiencies for our taxpayers. So.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. If people have questions as we navigate these, coming weeks and months, feel free to reach out, and I'll do my best to help you with that. And I will keep updating the board as new information comes out. We've been working on annual meeting preparation, and I'll just give Courtney a shout out. She has been working tirelessly on our FNESU district annual report, and that has been a huge endeavor. We took feedback last year from our community about our report. We're very excited last year. I want to say we spent a lot of time building our annual report, and we listen when people give us feedback. And a taxpayer last year said to us in a meeting, this wasn't written for us. And it took me a little bit by surprise, but then when I read it through with a different lens, I thought, oh, he's not wrong. Like, we didn't use the right language to make it accessible to all community members. So we try to do a much better job this year. It's a lot fewer words, and it's simpler, but it's still comprehensive, and I'm hoping that the community will get the information that they want out of it. We're getting close to having it being completed, and it'll head off to the printers. We're still working out the details of whether or not we can afford to mail the annual report, or if we're going to do what we've done in the past, which is the 2-page double-sided mailer. So we're working through, we have colleagues who found a way to do it very affordably to mail the annual report in their communities, and we're trying to navigate that ourselves. One thing that we changed this year, and I am hoping the board is good with this because I've already planned it, so I hope you're good with it. We had talked about having annual meetings in, budget informational meetings in all of our towns. And we took it a step further, and I'm gonna owe the principals too, not only Courtney, but also the principals, because they played along and let me make a last minute change. So we'll have budget informational meetings in each of our schools. And we're going to change what that looks like. So they're all planning something that will include something to get parents in to the buildings and community members into the buildings. The principals are gonna play a role in talking about what's happening in our schools, and they'll share some data and some goals and things that they're working on. And then Morgan and I will play a smaller role in those meetings, but we'll still be there to present the overall budget and be there to answer questions. So we're kicking these off starting on Monday at Enosburg Elementary School. So we're about to start a campaign of information out to our communities.
I'm sending the flyer out tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, I'm posting it on social medias, all the sites tomorrow.
Do you happen to have that pulled up so that we could tell the board which nights we're gonna be in these 4 towns? Okay.
I've got it in my brain.
We have it.
Okay, Bakersfield.
February 13th. We have a music concert that night, so we're gonna do it in conjunction with that.
And the other thing I didn't say is we're going to feed people too, so.
And we're having filet and lobsters, so
Okay, everything.
feel free to join.
Surf and turf, huh? Sounds delicious.
So February 13th,
February 13th, we're
5.
we're having dinner at 5. I'm gonna talk a little bit, then we have a concert, and then Lynn and Morgan, I believe, are coming in to wrap us up.
It will give you what the plan's gonna be, but there's a little bit of a conflict there. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So Berkshire's going to be February 19th. We are, as of right now, we're organizing a student performance, and will be 5 o'clock as well, and then the leftover lobster and filet mignon.
Good luck.
Kevin graciously volunteered to send it up to Berkshire.
Okay, and Sheldon?
We are actually Monday, February 24th at 5 p.m. We'll order a couple pizzas. I'm still trying to figure out any students that are going to be in town during vacation to see if we can get something in to talk probably about our STEM program again, because that's a big highlight right now. The kids are loving it. Otherwise, if I can't get any kids to come help with my presentation, we've talked about recording them and doing a short video, because it is on vacation when ours is happening. So 60 kids in basketball, I took up my gym nights every single day.
What time would yours be?
5 as well. We're gonna start at 5. We'll order some pizzas in from the local pizza place in St. Albans.
Sandy drew the short straw this year because hers is our formal annual meeting.
On the 25th, right?
Yes.
Yes, my date was assigned to be, and it is during break, of course, so I'm trying to figure out how many people I can reel in, but we are also feeding people. We'll probably do the pizza, Caesar salad kind of route that we've done for our other things. I'm doing some student performances, which is going to include our 20 cheerleaders that are gonna be there doing a little exhibition and some students singing and playing the piano, so I'm working on it.
Her dinner will start at 5:30.
Mine's 5:30 to 7.
So your dinner is at 5:30 and then
Yes.
our meeting starts at 6:30 formally?
Correct.
Okay. So student performances might be before 6:30?
They'll be in the middle, yes.
Okay.
And we know for certain we're not having an SU meeting on the 19th, correct, for February?
We don't have any in the books. We
Okay, perfect.
don't actually have any available evenings in February, and I'm actually
We
being
don't.
serious.
We don't.
Unless you want to meet on a Friday night, we're out every night.
Yeah.
We have 11 meetings.
Okay, okay, great.
So if the board members could look at your calendars and tell us which ones you plan to be at, it would be helpful. I think it would be great if we could maybe divide and conquer. If there's some of you that were able to be at more than one, that would be great. Certainly would not expect you to be at all of them. But if we could have at least a couple of board members at every meeting, I think that would be very helpful.
Do we have to have a certain number at the annual meeting?
No.
No.
You don't need a clock for that.
And they all start, we said at 5:30?
5.
5,
Mine's the 5:30.
Dinner is at 5.
okay.
Sandy's is at 5:30. And I also reached out to Northwest Access TV to help me if we offer a virtual option.
Which I think we should, because we have in the past had some people participate that way.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to create one link, and put it on the flyer, and that will be the link for every single school.
Sounds good.
Lynn, can I ask a question about the meeting on the 25th? That's the informational meeting.
Sure.
I got a calendar invite. It looks like a calendar invite from Courtney for 5 o'clock. So I'm guessing that that's not correct. I'm just looking for when the Zoom portion of the meeting would occur, the annual meeting part.
6:30 is when we can start the formal annual meeting part, because that's what's on our warning.
Yeah, that's what I had, and then I got today a calendar invite that had 6:30 crossed out and 5 written in.
And then we changed it a half hour later because 5 to 7 is quite long. But we can't start the official meeting until 6:30, so Sandy and I kind of
Move the dinner
fumbled
further.
the time a little bit today, and I was really busy today, and I just forgot to move it back to 5:30, the calendar.
Okay, because I'm not sure I got it corrected once, that's why I was
No,
asking.
you haven't.
Okay.
I haven't moved it yet. I will
Thanks.
though.
So Lisa, will you be there virtually?
Actually,
I hope to be.
Okay.
I can be at all but the Bakersfield.
Okay.
The other 3 I'm able to. I have to work on Thursday,
It's good food.
sorry.
Just to clarify,
We're
it's
having pizza.
probably not surface.
We're having pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With filet and lobster on it.
No, it will be just pizza. And whatever Courtney tells me we're having, we're eating.
Okay.
I'm not in charge of that.
I think we're going to shift to, the next on my agenda is the 25-26 contract. So we're moving into that time of the year where I ask the board for authority to sign contracts as they come up. We're mindful of budget, and at the same time, we're always walking the tightrope between waiting for our budgets to be approved and making sure that we hire efficiently, because it's very competitive in terms of the hiring landscape right now. I do think that there are places in the state that have had to make serious reductions in staffing, and that may be something that results in us having more candidates in FNESU. So we'll keep our eye on that, but we would like the authority from the board to be able to get people hired without having to wait all the way through to the board meeting.
Yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. Any discussion from the board on that? We do this every year. So I'll make that motion then. We'll do it by roll. John,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Arlene,
Aye.
Mary is an aye.
I think the last thing I'd like to just acknowledge and address is under other. And I want to talk about winter weather. So don't really want to talk about winter weather, but let's talk about winter weather. So I think I want to be able to just publicly share what the process is when we have a challenging winter weather day. So from December until about April, I'm up at about 4:45 every morning just in case, to make sure I know what's happening with the weather, tracking the weather. Been talking with superintendents about tomorrow's weather for a couple of days now. Like, there's a lot that goes into these decisions, and I take these decisions very seriously. One thing that I think is difficult for people to understand is I'm having to make decisions at 5 a.m. for whether that's going to happen 2 hours after I make my decisions, based on a predicted weather pattern that sometimes comes to fruition and it sometimes doesn't come to fruition. Sometimes it's better than what it looks like it's going to be, and sometimes it's worse than what it looks like it's going to be. So I'm tracking, I'm looking at NOAA weather patterns, very specific information, not the typical weather report that most people are looking at. I'm looking at road temperatures, and I'm looking at precipitation, and whether or not there's freezing rain, snow, what are the rates of snow, and I'm doing that for 6 communities. Well, I'm also having morning check-ins with road crews from all 6 of those communities and superintendents from the region as well. So there's a lot of communication that's happening before most people have had their first cup of coffee every time it snows. So I know there's a lot of people that can look at a situation and be like, ooh, should have been a cancellation today. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I can do that too. I can look at it and say, I didn't get that one right because it's different than what it looked like it was going to be when I made the decision at 5. But I kind of wanted the opportunity to just say to the community that these are, I value our students and our staff immensely, and their safety is a priority for me. So every time I have to make a decision like that, it's something that I take great pains to really try to make the right decision. I acknowledge that I don't always get those decisions right, but I'm going to do my best no matter when I'm trying to make the decision. I'll tell you, I'll have my 3 alarms set this morning or tomorrow morning, and I'll be up looking at tomorrow's weather pattern. I think that one thing I would like the community to hear from me is that if you feel like the roads are not safe for your students to travel on, you have that ability to make the decision to say, I'm not going to send my child to school. If you call school and you let the registrar, the principal, or the administrative assistant know that, we'll mark that as an excused absence. I'm not saying that because I want people to start missing a lot of time from school, but I'm saying that to just acknowledge that you can make that choice as a parent to say, I don't think it's safe. And I will continue to do my best to try to track the weather patterns across our 6 towns, and do acknowledge that sometimes some of those things surprise me. Anything else that?
No, I appreciate you saying something. It's a really difficult part of the job, for sure. Yeah. And I think what's also challenging too is we have some communities, I mean, for instance, Montgomery has a very unique weather system on the back of Jay. We get more snow and more winter weather than any of our other communities, and so you're often trying to kind of make the call for Montgomery, but also for Sheldon, very different weather situations. And I know how much kind of time and effort you put in the winter into watching the weather, trying to make the best call possible, but you can't always bat 1,000 with these.
I mean, the one thing I will say is that thing I like the least are snow squalls, because you don't necessarily see those coming. Sometimes those come out of nowhere. I will say, just acknowledge Bakersfield has been in a snow globe. They've been kind of between mountains and have been getting hit exponentially harder than normal this year. And tomorrow's weather forecast is kind of my worst nightmare, because it isn't there's never one that is like, this is a slam dunk. I canceled 2 years ago when it looked like we were getting 12 inches of snow, and I drove myself to work, it looked like it was gonna hit mid-morning, and about 2 o'clock, I thought, I'm gonna go to the store because I want a coffee, and I went outside and went, oh, no, it didn't come. So it's one of those things, like, I rarely do it when it's not like happening in real time, but I have to rely on those projections. And tomorrow is one of those days where it isn't going to be doing anything when I have to make the decision. And I'm gonna have to make the decision based on what's projected midday and beyond. So I'll do my best to get it right, and I hope I do. You leave it at that, I guess.
Thanks, Len. Appreciate that. Anything else on your
No.
agenda then? All right, thank you so much, Len. So that brings us to our principal board reports. Kevin, you are up.
Sure, so you have my principal report. Very excited about where we are right now, as we all are. I'll just share a couple of numbers because I did a short 45-minute presentation earlier this year in October. But at that point, if you remember, I said that there were 3 students that were proficient in mathematics in middle school, and that number has risen drastically. As a school, 2nd grade through 8th grade, and I'm just talking about math. Last spring, before I arrived, and we did our STAR testing, and there were 28 students that were proficient in mathematics. There were 70 students that were not proficient. And that's, those numbers are alarming. And so having really frank conversations with the staff, reminding them of the urgency that we have, that this is our future, the future of our county, and so we really want to make sure that we do what we can. And the work, and I say this every time I sit here, the work that these teachers are doing, it's just inspiring to me. I'm so proud of them. So we had 28 in the spring. We did our winter assessment last week, and we had 51 students that were above the line, and we had 41 that were below. So for the first time, and I was here 18 years ago, we weren't 50% at that point. So as of this point, we're over 50%. Again, it just goes to a lot of things. And I'll just name 3 things off the top of my head. One, we have a new program, and I think it works really well. I think it's risen the bar. I think it's showed our teachers what it means to be at a 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade level, and let's push them to get them up there where they belong. I think that the staff has worked really hard at providing engaging, dynamic lessons that are focused with precision, and our win blocks are as the same, which are intervention blocks. And I also think the mentality of the students has shifted. The students are wanting to do better. And so when you have a desire of a love of learning, great things happen. And it starts with the teachers. It really does. And so when they're excited, the students are excited, and it's been a fantastic ride thus far. And finally, I guess I also want to just add to that the parents. Last year we had around 30% of our parents came to conferences. This year we had over 90%. So when we know, and as all know, that when you're invested in your education by the parent side, your kids are going to be invested in their education as well. So it's just been a great puzzle being put together, and it's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to the second half of the year, and then I'm looking even more forward to what next year is going to bring.
And I just want to throw in from the grandparent position, leadership that pushes academics and pushes and says, you can do this, your teachers are good, we'll work together, and be invisible. So we thank you, Kevin.
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Excellent, thank you so much. Gavin?
So piggybacking on some of the growth that Kevin has seen at Berkshire, we have seen across the board some fairly substantial student growth in both reading and math. One of the biggest things I would say is that, once again, sometimes it's not always reflected in proficiency, but it's reflected in the fact that there are students moving up from categories, whether it be falling far below to now approaching. And we did see across the board shifts in the right direction. In terms of SEL, another thing that's been very exciting is one of our big goals was to cut planning room referrals down by 33%. We're actually projected right now, if things continue to hold out, we're projected to actually meet that goal by 2 percentage points to 35%. This time last year, there were 962 planning room referrals. We are now down to 607 planning room referrals, so that's very encouraging growth. In terms of administrative referrals, we are at 115, so if that were to continue, if that trend were to continue as well, we are to once again fall below what we had last year. And so all of that, I think, is just the fruits of the hard work that the teachers have done. The hard work that our behavior support team, including our assistant principal, Erin Paquette, and our guidance counselor, Sarah Fortin, and many, many others have really banded together to really turn the page for Berkshire. And really, this year has been a true sign of renewal. And on that topic, I did want to touch base on one specific thing that I wanted to share, which is we are trying, we have put on the books a event called Winterlude. That's going to be the Friday before our mid-winter break. And it is going to basically, it was inspired by a lot of countries throughout the world have what's called a Winterlude, and it's basically done towards the middle to towards the end of winter. And one of the things is to celebrate the winter, but also welcome the coming of the spring. And we noticed that January and February are pretty difficult months for education. There's the old adage, teachers in January, because in January, it's the coldest, darkest month of the year. As I remember a conversation Lynn and I actually had last year where she reminded me of that. And it also can feel like really you're sort of like in the middle of the tunnel, and it's really hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So this was a way to celebrate this time of the year. And so there's going to be several different things we're planning. We're actually welcoming members of the Abenaki tribe to help with a drum ceremony and snow snakes. My wife, who is from Budapest, Hungary, and actually remembered as a child celebrating Winterlude in Budapest. She's going to come for mask making, where students make masks and then go outside to scare off the winter. And she also said jumping over a bonfire is part of that. And I don't know if I can get approval to have the students jump over bonfires, but
Beg for forgiveness.
To give you an idea.
actually,
You're giving me gray hairs.
and that's actually part of the fun as well.
Definitely no bonfire jumping.
There's actually, we spoke with our teacher, one of our consultants who's helping us with this, suggested, well, why don't you do use arts and crafts to sort of make a replica bonfire? And so that's what we're going to do. That's not going to have real fire of any type.
That says, do not try this at home.
Exactly. Yeah. It's actually going to be made out of sharp glass. So it's most likely our art teacher has a few ideas. I think he's actually going to see if he can get some colored, basically like some saran wrap and sort of blow exactly and through the fan, kind of blow it up as well, and everyone can jump over that. And then just a few other ideas, just to celebrate the community as well. And so we're really excited about that. That's actually what I hope when Berkshire School Spotlight is next. That's actually one of the things I hope to showcase as well.
Thank you guys.
Excellent, thanks so much, Kevin. Sandy?
I have a couple of quick things. I'm going to say one thing before that, Courtney. Today, as a matter of fact, our MTSS team was working on the Act 139 report out kind of thing, since we just did all our assessments and we're following the directions, making sure we're getting all our ducks in a row. And it's, K to 3, looking at the students that need urgent intervention. And so when you plug in, that you look compared to the district and all that stuff, we only had 2 that we need to notify. So we almost fell off our chairs. We were pretty excited, but I didn't expect that. It doesn't mean there are not others that require intervention, because there are plenty more that do, anywhere in the red and the yellow, but only 2 based on the formula that we had to put in to compare. So we're pretty excited about that. And then, just as I was in that MTSS meeting wrapping it up and I started checking my email, I got an email from a former student who was an 8th grader my first year here in 2015, so he would have graduated 8th grade in 2016, Noah Soren, and it's quick. It just melted my heart.
Hey, Miss Alexander, I hope you're doing well. I know it's been a while since we last spoke, but I wanted to share some really exciting stuff that I've been working on over the course of the past few years. I wrote a series of children's books and made a series of eco-friendly plush toys to teach kids about the beauty of nature and the importance of environmental conservation. The name of the project is ADORI, which stands for I Dream of Real Impact, and I would absolutely love to bring this to Montgomery Elementary School. I already spoke with Melissa Capizzuto about doing a reading there, and we were gonna do it over the winter, but it happened to happen on the same day that you guys were having a snow day. But I still love MES, and I would love to support you guys by donating some books and resources, and I just wanted to share that this is something that I'm working on. If you know any other parents or educators who might be interested in getting their very own Benji the Tree Hopper to teach their kids about sustainability, then please feel free to share this message forward. I hope you're doing well, and I'd love to catch up soon, and please let me know if there's a good time that I can come visit MES to do an ADORI story time. Take care.
He's not little Noah anymore.
I know. Yeah, he's a Boston University graduate.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he's gonna come in and visit us.
Excellent.
Bring Benji the Tree Hopper.
You actually just had another former student author visit. Jesse DeRona was just
Yes.
with Ms. Z's class.
He was just there the other
Yeah.
day. Yeah,
That's great.
he was there before my time. I didn't know him, but.
It was my time.
Ready for Sheldon?
Yes.
All right, 2 things. One, I thought it was gonna be my only thing, but then I got given something else I have to share. But first, our positive behavior intervention system, we're part of that for Vermont, and we just had our walkthrough done by the Vermont coach that we have, and we scored like 98% on it, which last year we were in the upper 80%, so we've improved that much in just another year. So we have maintained, sustained, and improved almost as much as you can. The only area that we lost 1 or 2 points on was just how much community feedback we're getting, because we have parent members on the committee, but we just don't have enough yet community feedback. So that's our next step, is to get more community involvement. But what I really wanted to share, so we're trying to really be student-centered, have them buy into everything, especially the academics that I've been pushing since I started. So last year when we did our STAR testing and they either had the growth percentage at a certain point or they were testing proficient in winter or spring, we gave them stickers and certificates and celebrated them. I don't know if you remember the pictures of the popcorn party where I had to pop 400 bags of popcorn over the course of a morning. Yeah. So this winter, we're doing hot cocoa that I'm delivering to every room. I've got urns full of it that will be doing that, and they get Smarties because they're Smarties now. And then we held a contest for our students. So instead of stickers, we decided we wanted 3D printed tokens that they could put on a keychain. And so we had a contest. There were 6 finalists from the kids, and then from those 6, we were able to actually turn 3 of them into 3D print designs and print them. So we have 3 winning tokens. So kids on Friday will get their cocoa treats. We're also having, they won their school-wide celebration, so they're doing an obstacle course. And then they each who made growth or proficiency, I'll give you the deals on that, get a token. We decided each of the people here tonight get a token just to, have some Sheldon swag. But all of our students, only 32 didn't make sufficient growth or proficiency. Only 32 of our students won't get a token, but they'll get a not their Yeti certificate so that they know that we recognize they tried hard. And there's 3 different designs, so I don't know which one you're getting, I'm just handing them out. That won, and the kids are super excited for this way. You get one too, I know you're.
It's from Sheldon.
It's from Sheldon. We love you, I love Sheldon, and I watch this. So they were really excited, they're really looking forward to seeing what designs finally won, and
And they're randomly color printed. We just told the printer, choose what you want for colors, and that's one of the cool features they have, that all of us schools have. So we did that. And then they also there was a contest to name our STEM space. And so we have a name. We actually have a sign design. I just forgot to bring that image in, sorry. So they voted, there was a lot of submissions. And the name they chose, and I didn't, manufacture this one. I just was really excited someone gave a name that was similar to what I was hoping for. It's gonna be the Sheldon Creation Station. So we are gonna like assign gears and LED lights behind it, and it's gonna say Sheldon Creation Station. It's gonna go with 3D printers. And they're very excited because we're gonna they get to help make and design those gears. Again, student focused on this. So that's my update. Thank you.
Kudos.
Yeah, see, it works great.
Excellent, thank you so much, lovely, that's great. All right then, so that brings us to board business. I don't believe I've heard from anyone about any future agenda items. There's always plenty of time. Our next meeting will be March 12th here at the central office. That will be after town meeting day, so we will most likely have a new member on the board. We will do our reorganization. There's a lot between now and then, though, with all of the meetings in the various schools, and I just would, encourage everyone in your respective communities when you're out and about to spread the word about the vote, the budget, all the ways in which people are able to access the information, to understand what they're voting on, and I'm really hoping that it's a solid budget. I'm hoping we can get support from our communities and pass both district budgets. And I'm certainly going to do my best in my town to get the word out, and hope everyone else will do the same. And if you run into people with questions that you can't answer, then certainly direct them to Morgan or Lynn or me, and
Or to an informational meeting.
or to the
one of those
informational
budget
meeting,
meetings.
yes.
And they don't actually have to just go to their own
Right.
towns. Like if it works better in their schedule, they could go to a different communities.
Did you send us a list of all of them? Or did
I'm
you
sending
already-
it tomorrow. I have to add the Google Meet link before I can,
Just
I'm sending it, and when I do it, I'm gonna blast it to all schools at once. So your people don't have to put it on their Facebook, I'll do it for everybody.
perfect.
Great, and then you'll make a social media posts as well with
Yeah,
the
it's gonna
times and the
be-
locations and,
I'm going to put it, I'll do an all supervisory union-wide
excellent,
message, and then I'll put it on social media too.
great,
And
okay,
the dates are also on the back page of our annual report.
right,
Probably will be.
And Courtney,
Thanks,
we can
Courtney.
take those and then share them to our town pages.
Yeah, of course,
Okay.
yeah. It'll
excellent.
be, you'll just look tomorrow for one of the schools and it'll be there.
And there'll be something coming in mailboxes soon, we hope.
Yep,
End of next week, maybe?
I'm hoping.
I mean, we're working hard to get everything finalized, but coming soon. But there is a budget section on our website that people could go to in the meantime, or if they want to look at current information, they can. But that annual report is very close to final state, and hopefully we can get it off to the printers, and they're pretty quick
Yeah.
with their turnaround, so.
Perfect, that sounds great. Okay, anything else to discuss tonight, folks? Okay, well, thank you so much. I'll make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you so much, folks.